the thing that you and I were talking about was like this sort of hesitancy around AI and using AI to do intake or intake related work. Maybe it doesn't do all the intake, but like aspects of the intake. And there's this kind of market shift that's taking place right now, uh, in absence of law firms, which we can talk about. But then I wanted to kind of dive into this hesitancy and how to overcome that. Maybe I'll talk first about the market shift that I'm seeing. Uh, Essentially, we're living through a moment in time where tools like ChatGPT or the AI results in Google search that you're getting now and Anthropic, it's training consumers to search for things and purchase things and make buying decisions on the internet in a completely different way than they ever have before. And so when you think about legal services, I look at it as like a form of e-commerce in general. Like, how do you make decisions on what law firm you're going to go with, and how do you get answers to your questions? And so because we're living in this world now where search is like you're getting answers and results quickly, consumers are getting trained to get answers and results and resolutions quickly. And so this notion of like, hey, I think I might have a problem, or I think I have a legal problem, this notion that I have to like contact a law firm to get any answers, I think is going to go away, because consumers are expecting resolutions in a self-serve manner. And so I think the firms that provide a self-serve resolution process, or as much self-serve resolution as they can accurately, are the firms that are ultimately going to win, because that's what the increasing demand from consumers is. And I don't think this is just in legal. I think it's all online commerce in every category of services and products. And so that excites the heck out of me. I don't know if you're sort of seeing the same thing.
No, I'm definitely seeing the same thing. Consumers are starting to expect agentic AI. They're not scrolling through Google. They're not, trying to make phone calls or wait to hear back. The common way to find information is search in Google and see what Gemini pulls up. Or you go on a website and a chatbot comes on. It's come to the point where it's not surprising them anymore. They're almost expecting it. And if you're not on board, it's going to start seeming more and more outdated.
When we talk about this market shift and this increasing demand and expectation from consumers to get self-serve resolutions, and we look at legal, like there is this hesitancy among law firms to try some sort of AI powered solution for some aspect of intake. And I kind of get that, right? Like intake is a very important thing. And I'm just curious, like where you've seen that hesitation come from, maybe what bad experiences you've seen, and how you saw Superpanel as different to that, given your exposure to all that on the law firm side.
Yeah. So usually when law firms approach me, it's because they're interested in, automating in some capacity. So they already have this idea in their head that they want to modernize, they want to make their process better. And a lot of times they don't know where to turn, or they have tried AI and they got burned by it. And actually, before finding you guys at my most recent company, we did try a different couple AI products, and it was just a completely different experience. So I understand where this hesitancy is coming from people who have tried AI and they were left kind of in the dust of not sure, like they felt like they spent money and they created a bigger issue. Um, I won't name companies, but some of the experiences we had with these very actually well-known AI companies is they provide you with their product and they give you these very impressive promises, and then they kind of, you have a couple onboarding meetings and then you're off on your own and you're chasing the problems. You end up in their systems back end a lot trying to fix the issues, and it just becomes incredibly overwhelming. I think there were a couple people on my team who were spending maybe like 50% of their work week just chasing down these AI issues at one point, and then trying to figure out logically what was happening and then how they can fix it, because we weren't given back and forth support and, you know, um, talked through the transition process.
Right, right. What were examples of those problems? Is it like the AI doing things or saying things that it shouldn't, or like what was that?
Yeah, sometimes it was complete, logical errors, where they were disqualifying qualified leads, or, the biggest thing I saw was that some of these companies don't take the time to learn your process or to really get to know how you function on an everyday basis, and so they would do things very, very fast, and then we would eventually notice, like, our qualified lead count has gone way down, and then we would start hunting for the issue ourselves. I remember the most recent issue we had was someone from the company we were working with, put the wrong qualifying criteria for us, and it was a complete typo, like, uh, they must have tried to do something really fast and didn't, double check it. They put that the years we accept for vehicles for our lemon law firm was, I believe it was, like, 2020 to 2000 was what they put. So for a period of time, so many leads were just getting marked as unqualified, and we just created this massive, mess, and we were the ones who actually found the problem. If we hadn't brought it to them, they would have never, even noticed it. So it kind of became a system of that. We see the chatbot isn't working. We see um, text going out to unqualified leads, or we see qualified leads being marked as unqualified, and then us, reading through all the text, trying to take screenshots, trying to put it in a nice, pretty package, and then talking to the company and then waiting to hear back from them. And it was just, consuming a lot of our time.
Right, right. That makes sense. What, I guess, how was that experience different when you worked with Superpanel? Like what was different there that got to the success outcomes that you guys got to?
I think the fact that you were willing to sit down with me a couple times and learn our everyday intake process, and then not just figure out how you can launch quickly and then kinda get out of there. You, learned what we were doing, and then you wanted to also prioritize making it easy for our intakers to use and to not disrupt their process. So that was definitely something that the other companies weren't doing. Um, I remember we were working on this automated task-based system, and you decided to, fit in there perfectly, and when you were ready for it to be escalated to an intaker or for the lead to be addressed, you followed that same, um, task system. So the intakers, it didn't cause any disruption, it didn't cause alarm. Um, that was one large change, and then also the pilot plan that you guys have, that's different where you're constantly checking on how the AI is doing. If there are errors, you're making sure that not only do they get fixed, but that the AI is learning from it. And then you're trying to reach a specific point where you can actually look at the data at a certain metric and say, okay, we're performing just as well as your intakers, if not better. So following us through to that point was very different, rather than just giving us the AI and then not worrying about figuring out this stable point we can reach, um, that that's what left us scrambling and having to figure out things for ourselves.
So I think what you're talking about is this, like how we onboard what we call sequences. This is what we did with you guys. This is what we do with every company. Um, and you're seeing this now on our side of the table, seeing us working with new companies. But basically, we come in and what we want to do is look at a benchmark. So we take some workflow, right? And let's say this workflow starts here and ends here. Let's just call this like, let's say this is a signed retained case. And let's say this is like initial contact. I'll just call IC. And there's a bunch of work that gets done in between. And what we do is we say, okay, let's launch what we call a sequence, which involves interacting with a potential client and also interacting with internal systems, whether that be CRMs, case management systems, document management systems, Slack channels, whatever. And we teach what we call a digital employee to do some percentage of this work. Let's say it's this percent. So let's say digital employee does all of this and then hands off to human intaker here at this point. And what we want to see is like, if this process, usually this process has some sort of success metric or some sort of KPI. It could be throughput, it could be qualified percentage, it could be conversion percentage, could be time to get done, whatever it might be. So basically look at like, what is the KPI for this? And that becomes our benchmark. And so what we're looking for is this benchmark of a given workflow. And then we'll say, okay, we're going to automate, let's say 50% of it with, call this sequence number 1. So we might have a sequence, we usually give it a name. And rather than just like deploying it, our process is, and we do this in the pilot phase, is like, let's deploy this with just a tiny amount of people, like a small cohort, let's say 10 people. And so we just run 10 people through this. And let's say you have, 500 people a month that go through this workflow. We're just going to run 10 people through it and see how it goes. 99% of the time, something goes wrong. And so we've got auditability baked into our product, where we can understand why every decision was made by a digital teammate, which allows us to then quickly make a change and then run another cohort through. So then we run another 10 people through. And usually we see a performance improvement. And then if that performance improvement looks good, we'll say, okay, let's run 40 people through this and see how that goes. And maybe there's a few more little changes we make some iterations, and then we're like, all right, let's run 100 people through it. And what we're doing is we're iterating to get to what we call a stabilization point. And stabilization is where this sequence, and the sequence, again, it's just like an end-to-end sequence of work that is done by a digital teammate. And this sequence is running at or above this preset performance benchmark. And so it can take us a little while to get there. And we just run on small cohorts until we have confidence to start deploying at a larger and larger scale. And then we'll sometimes start taking like a percentage of all people that go through this. And then we start increasing that percentage until we get to 100%. And so I think that's maybe the process you're talking about, is this sort of iterative approach to deploying a digital teammate and training that digital teammate to do a given sequence of work.